Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. But before I do that, here's a quote I picked just for this episode. Rank does not confer privilege or give power, it imposes responsibility. Peter Drucker. My good friend Austin Duchaine is here, construction entrepreneur, father of four, friend to myself and others in the Culture Matters family. Started in his industry at 13, entrepreneur at 18 or 19, founder of AD&C Construction, 1-800 water damage, Manit staffing, building an empire, and going to share it today. Investor in real estate. I'm so excited to get to know you on a deeper level, brother, and share you with our audience. Thanks for coming on, and early too, which is always fun.
Always fun indeed. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here, Jay.
So, first of all, do you think the spirit of service has been a part of your success in starting these businesses young and continuing to grow them? And the reason I asked that is I was actually listening to the Real Build podcast when you were getting interviewed, and you were talking about mom working at Olive Garden and dad running these Red Lobsters. I'm like, wow, so the question is the spirit of service. Like, how has that made some level of impact, or what are your thoughts around how that influenced you early? And
That's a great question. So the spirit of service has everything to do with it. I think I've never really thought about it that way, but my parents being in the food service industry and exchanging that quality of service, especially on my mother's side, where she was between a bartender and a waitress at Olive Garden. And you have a high level of service, you make your client or your customer feel great, important, their needs attended to. And that's how you get that additional pay in form of tips. Um, and I think that translated well into the way that I model my relationship with my clients is just over just service them to where they are getting more than what they're paying for, and you don't have an issue with compensation because you're just over delivering, and the compensation will come after. So absolutely think that service and that wanting to help people out has been instrumental in growth.
yo, the what was well, first of all, I did was jump forward a bit.
Mhm.
The last year, because you've been in business now for you started 2004, yeah?
2004 is when I officially incorporated my company. I had started out as being a subcontractor, a sole. While I was working for a company, we had a good relationship. He knew I was getting my business started, but officially started my business, yes, 2004.
So you're going on 20-year anniversary of being an entrepreneur and not yet 40. So what's your advice to the young up and comers that want to be, want to be in the position that you're in and where you're going, who are they have the ambition, but maybe they aren't fully confident at some level that they can do that. Thinking, oh my God, where am I going to be in 20 years? Maybe they're 5 years in.
Well, the advice absolutely is when you start young, you don't know what you don't know. So you may have the benefit of not having a lot of responsibility holding you back. You may not have a family that you have to provide for, but you also don't have a lot of wisdom. So if you can have a mind shift, if you're starting later, and you can overcome that fear and use and harness what you already know and your circle and your friends and the people that you can work with, it's really about overcoming that fear, but you can get started a lot faster. It took me quite a bit, but that was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of starting overs. Um, you know, but really, and the ultimate advice is to just do it.
For
As
those
simple as
that
that
aren't
sounds.
familiar with AD&C, are the actual services and or products that are provided to its customers?
The AD&C Enterprises is a construction, a commercial construction company. We actually are called you know, sir, we are a specialty trade service. So we do drywall, metal stud framing, acoustical ceilings, insulation, and painting are our core services. Now, we believe in servicing our clients. So if we have a client that we have a good relationship with, but they need other services, we find a way to facilitate those.
Did you have did you think when you were young that drywall installation painting enterprise is what you were going to end up being at the helm at? Or like,
When I was when I was young, my goal was to make some money when I was still in school so that I could pay for college. And I was really into computers. And at that point, it was
really?
networking or yeah. So I had always been kind of an entrepreneur. I was selling candy in school and just things all over the place, buying and selling when I was younger. So I always had that itch for an entrepreneur, but it was really with the focus of I didn't my we grew up poor and I didn't see my family being able to pay for college. So it was
Hmm.
really with that goal is to pay for myself.
Hmm. How old were you when you sold the candy?
8. Yeah.
How'd you do
And
it?
Uh, so when I was how old was I when I sold the candy? So I would there was a grocery store. It was like a little discount grocery store. They sold. It really started with Bubblicious bubble gum. As you get four pieces of gum for $1, and I was selling each or 4 packs with 4 pieces for $1. I was selling each piece for a quarter. So uh,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So I did that, and both my dad and my mom working in restaurants too, they would bring home the beads you get at Red Lobster or the little umbrellas you get in the drinks. And so they'd bring back a bunch of those, and I'd take them to school and and sell them out for $1 a piece, $2, depending on what they were. So
Where did the idea come from?
that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know what got me started. I was young when I started doing it. I remember thinking though when I was young, and it might sound a little rough, but these kids that have braces aren't allowed to have candy. So I was in school saying selling them gum, kind of supply and demand type thing. Yeah, because I don't know if that's what got me started because I had a friend that had braces and he was never allowed to have candy. But
There was a
you know,
there was a demand.
there was a demand. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if we were buddies, I would have skipped that whole Warcraft phase. We would have been entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
8 years old. Yeah,
And
that's
that's
pretty
that's what I
good.
use. Yeah, and I again, we grew up poor, and that's what I use money for. I saved money, and I bought, because I was into video games too. So and I had to buy my own.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
3 siblings, yeah?
When I was early on, I had two. So my parents had another two later in life. My Yeah, when I was about 18, they had another son.
Were you the youngest, the oldest?
Oldest, I'm the oldest.
Hmm. Have you ever saw yourself as a leader, the leader of the family in that way? And do you think that's influenced you as it relates to being this entrepreneur with all these businesses?
Yeah, I would say with my brother and sister that I would, I absolutely saw myself as a leader and helping them out and having a good relationship there. And I was also pretty close with my dad, and he was always a manager of and leader, and he did a good job that way. So I learned a lot from him.
Did he expect you to become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. He
Really?
encouraged. Yeah, he there was there he He saw that as a path for me because when he was working in restaurants, he also had a little side business repairing and helping people with computers. But he encouraged me to do whatever I was happy doing, wanted to do, and absolutely, as he saw that, encouraged it.
How important do you think it is to, if people are listening to this that have kids that are showing interest or enthusiasm for entrepreneurship, selling gum or not, what would be your advice of how to navigate that to increase the likelihood of them succeeding the way you have? Because you didn't go the traditional route we can unpack.
Right, right. So, my advice is to just whatever they want to do is to encourage it because it's not going to be for every kid, and that was something I had to learn as now having four kids is not all your kids are going to be inclined to that. They're going to want they might have some they're really focused on, some maybe in the medical field. It's not to run yourself ragged because you will of trying to get them to be what you want them to be. But if you see that itch, I would suggest encouraging it because the younger you get started, the quicker you can get over that fear of it and do something great.
Now, so if I'm correct, you left school young.
I
Um,
did.
did you think at that point that you wanted to be a business person?
Still, I would say it was there. I wouldn't. I'm not going to say that I thought to myself, I'm going to be a business person when I left school. I started because my parents allowed me to do homeschooling so that I could start working. And within a year,
Wow.
though, I just started working full time.
Was that hard?
Not for me. I enjoyed it. So yeah, yeah. I did homeschooling, and back then, at when you were in eighth grade, you could do homeschooling where they would just send you the books and you'd read them, and then you'd fill out some tests. That was really the only interaction, so you could kind of do it on your own time.
Huh.
Um, but at about 14, 15, I started, working full time and really starting to enjoy working with my hands.
What's your take on education and that we think it's important for entrepreneurs, or is it to each their own?
I think education is important. Learning, always being somebody that's learning, reading, taking it in. I have uh, the structured educational system as it is now is it can hurt. I think depending on the school you're going to or your entrepreneurial itch, so to speak. It kind of structures you into following rules and things
Hmm.
like that. So I don't. I think school and then college is great if you have something that you need those, which that is every year that's getting less and less of what you actually need college for to do. But no, I mean, for it to be an entrepreneur, you do. I don't think you need that extended school or college. It can actually kind of hinder you. What you need is you still definitely need education and training, but you can get that from people. You can get that from interacting with people that have that information. Um, yeah.
I mean, was it scary to go that route? Your own route. It's like you carved your own path. Or were you just so clear on where you wanted? Or
I think uh, I wouldn't say it was scary until I got into my early 20s, and the scare only came from where you hit valleys and you got to grind to get yourself
Mm.
back up because you definitely have ups and downs. Um, but no, I think between committed and just generally being stubborn, I wasn't going to let myself fail. So, eh, and the scared times were only momentary, like a day or two before you said you got to get off your ass and do this, and then it was really motivation and a direction.
Yeah, what's your advice to entrepreneurs listening how to process stress and just, pull through and get it done?
So my advice for that would be, uh, allow yourself to, and don't beat yourself up if you're feeling down for a few days. I think it's okay. It's normal for you to, if you get kicked on the ass, to allow yourself to, or not necessarily allow yourself, but not be hard on yourself because you're feeling down.
Hmm.
A day, 2 days, uh, and then you got to really, why am I here, and what is it going to take to get out of this? You just have to make that shift sooner. You can't dwell on it for a long time.
So AD&C originally was Atlas. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, how'd you come up with the name, and what was the first year like of that?
So Atlas, I think it. I kind of was. I read a lot of Roman and Greek and the mythology things. So really, it was Atlas, and I remember one night I just thought, a guy holding up the world with a tool bag
Wow.
on as a logo, and then I thought Atlas Drywall. That's how I came up with the name.
Did it have anything to do with like Atlas Shrugged or anything? Was that
uh,
just coincidental?
Probably Atlas shrugged. Probably coincidental. So.
So I remember I was listening. You were young at the time, but you were doing about 5 million in revenues, but then around 2008 happened, right?
Right, yeah.
How did that shape you as a business person, as a future father?
So, yeah, it was about 2008, I think it was, that I did 5 million. I just everything was coming together. We had a lot of clients. We were selling. And then when the housing crash happened, which was that 2008, 2009, uh, a lot of people weren't paying. So I had the sales, I just
Wow.
wasn't collecting the money. And so how that shaped me was realizing that you can grow fast, but if you don't have the systems, procedures, and specifically the collection procedures when you're in the contracting business, you can lose it all because you didn't pay attention. You were growing. Money can come quick, but it can leave just as fast.
Wow. Now you had been owning the business for about 4 years at that time.
Yes.
So what type of work ethic would you say you had to get in 4 years to, yeah, of course, the market fell out and you're talking, yeah, people are trying, you're running after to get the money. But like you said, you made the sales, you were grew the culture. What type of work ethic? Like if we went through your day, or your week, working part time, we're like, what does it take to start something like that? You were young, you were like 18, 19.
So at that time, that 2004, really, like I said, I was working basically two jobs from 2001 on because working for uh, I was working for a company and working on my own business. So from that
Wow.
time till 10, 11, 2010, 2011. I mean, it was extreme work ethic. It it was not out of line to be working 18, 19 hours a day.
Really?
And I was doing a lot of traveling. So, because I had the model, especially after the crash, of focusing on fewer clients, but doing work wherever in the country they had it. So, and uh, there for the first few years when you're an entrepreneur, you're wearing a lot of hats, kind of like that Michael Gerber E-Myth, where you're just wearing all the hats and you're doing all the things. So you'd work during the day, then in the
Hmm.
evening you do the billing and the estimating. So yeah, to start a business and to get it to me to grow fast, the work ethic has to be there. It's not an
What
option.
if it isn't?
If it isn't, then if it isn't, then you're either going to grow slow, you're going to get lucky, but that's going to fade because you have to have a certain amount of work ethic. Not everybody has to work 18, 19 hours, but you're just not going to grow as fast. And you're not going to be there to capitalize on opportunity if you're not working. Um, and it's just, or if it's not there, if you don't have the work ethic, there's plenty of people looking for employees.
So I'm a little twisted because I thought social media told me I could do everything passive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Social media will definitely help you out. Yep. And then you'll learn the hard way real quick.
Now, what were the lessons in the like that time where you had to chase people outside of systems and processes, relationally or personally, the lessons in that tougher time?
So the, the lessons that I learned during that is one, to spend more time vetting and understanding your client, because not everybody deserves your business. Um, you know, you rely on ethical people. And if you're doing, especially in contracting where the payment doesn't happen at time of sale, so you have to trust them to pay you. So I learned to start building relationships with my clients, knowing who
Hmm.
they are, them knowing who I am. And really focusing on those relationships and doing more for them, because there's a trust there, than just adding more clients that I didn't know.
Hmm. Do you think you'd be where you are today had you not gone through that tougher time?
I don't know for sure. Uh, it it probably would have taken me longer to learn these lessons had it not have been kind of a catastrophic almost event that shaped it. I'd like to think that I'm a student of and learning, and and really getting mentors. So hopefully my systems, procedures, and the way I did business would catch up, but it wouldn't have been the same speed had that not happened.
Why didn't you quit?
That's not it. That's not in me. The quitting thing isn't, I think that's the stubborn part of my personality. I so I just for authenticity, I when I closed down Atlas Drywall, I had a person or another drywall business that I had been collaborating with at the time, and I partnered up with him. I shut down Atlas Drywall. He had a big, much larger than my residential company, and so we partnered on a commercial. We had as one of three partners. Uh, I learned that he wasn't as ethical as I had thought he was. We had some issues that only lasted 8 months, and because I had shut my company down and paid everybody, I was able to start AD&C Enterprises pretty easily. Got my clients.
Wow. What was the transition or evolution into staffing, and how does that flow into the main business there, or is it the main business at this point?
So I wouldn't say it's the main business. We do a lot with that with Manage. It's definitely its own entity, but um, the evolution was a need where everybody, even when I started that, I think it was 2018, I believe, is when I officially started. AD&C had been doing that, and it had been for its clients uh, sending out labor at time and material to people in need, last minute. And what we really focus is on general contractors or restoration companies that need people right now. Um, so yeah, yeah, that's it. AD&C was doing it, but then I wanted to focus because there's definitely a need. Everybody needs workers right now.
But what, I guess, when did the idea strike you? This is something else we could do to add value. Like, how does the mind of the entrepreneur in your case work, right? For that, so those listening, that they may not be capitalizing to fully help their customers because they're not creatively open in that way.
Well, I think so. I think that really just keeping your ears open. You're moving 100 miles a minute. What happened for me was I just had clients saying, I don't, I need something right now. So I need 6 drywall hangers right now. Um, but I don't need you to provide materials, or I had another drywall contractor already on my job. They're falling behind. I need you to fix, or I need help. And so that got me thinking, if my client or that had used some, so if I knew somebody that had used a different drywall company and they're not performing, and my customer would be up against liquidated damages if they don't get a job done on time, there must be more like that. So that's the way my mind was working. It's kind of a immediate need, but there must be more people out there that need that.
Wow. How would you give advice to someone that is trying to build I guess a multi-channel value add for their customers, and how to efficiently manage their time, and lead?
My advice is exactly what I try to do, and that is not go so far out of my lane where you're reinventing what you're doing. It's what is where can you build synergy? So my companies, and even within those companies, what they do or the services they provide kind of work together. It's not reinventing. I'm not a construction company that is now, I'm going to open some pizza restaurants. It's they're Yeah, they're a little bit different services, but they kind of work together. And there are things that even the people could learn a new skill set to do. So just if you don't want to, really just find things that complement each other.
How do you sell it without being awkward?
How do you sell it without being awkward? You mean the selling?
It's like the multi-channel for dummies.
Uh, well, you sell it without being awkward. If you have to sell yourself first, you have to believe that you can execute for who you're talking to, and that they have a serious need for what you're offering. So it to not be awkward, you just have that. I think that's true about anything, dating, whatever you're doing. You have to be sold yourself first. That's how you don't be awkward.
Hmm. Hmm. Did you ever feel that or attention in the beginning when you had the idea? Okay, I want to add more value to my customers. How am I going to go about doing this without undermining what we're already doing? Because yeah,
No, I think after later on when you think back, at least I'm that way. I think of, well, how did I do that? What could have happened? But in the moment, I
yeah,
see a need, and I see it, and I have a desire to fill that need. So the only awkwardness that happens for me is I'm quick to do that part, but then it's how do I charge for it? How much? Those kind of things that come after. I'm real quick to fill a need. Sometimes, uh, which I think is a double-edged sword. It's good. It helps you, you figure it out and you're moving, but it could lead to slight trouble. But it's kind of pick your poison. I'd rather figure those things out. But if I hear a need, I'm looking for a way to figure it to help out.
you network with a lot of entrepreneurs. You've been a part of all sorts of different groups, meeting people. Why do you think entrepreneurs fail?
Well, there are multiple reasons entrepreneurs fail. One, I think they don't realize when they're getting into it what it means to be an entrepreneur. It's Entrepreneur is very almost a celebrity type thing these days. And with this, like we were talking about the social media, just everybody should be an entrepreneur. I don't agree with that. I don't think everybody should be one. I think that um, it helps to be naive to what the demands are of an entrepreneur, because if you knew exactly what it meant to be successful or having any kind of terms of success, you might not do it. But they fail because they give up, and which is okay. They should do that quicker so they can find what they're happy doing, right?
Yeah, I see this more like at some level, I became entrepreneurial because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. But did I want to get up at 4:45 this morning to do this? Absolutely not. It's like, but I'm not going to let you down. So it's paradoxical.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get yourself going when you don't feel like it?
Uh,
How do you
what,
develop that discipline or impulse control? I guess we can go two ways with that. But yeah, how do you start that process?
so that changes for me. Now it's more, I have a duty I'll start with now. Now I rely on two things: goals. So I'm going to focus on those goals and they're going to help pull me through when things are rough, because this is where we're going. And I know from experience that things are cyclical. So there's ups and downs with being an entrepreneur, with everything in life. So if I'm focusing on that goal, I know that on the other side of this downside is going to be an upside. The other part is I have a duty to not only my family, but also my employees' families. So there's people that have literally hitched their entire lives to my vision and purpose, and I would let them down if I let a momentary uh, issue, uh, whatever you would call it, if I let that keep us from going forward.
Wow. Wow. What's that like to have that responsibility?
Uh, it's both rewarding, but it's also very sobering, that a little scary, that there it's tied to you, and it's something I take very, very seriously.
Why?
So, because that is, when you think about it's, you really go granular with that. And I do that sometimes. And that is, the person that's working for you, it's not them, it's their spouse, it's their kids, it's the food that goes on the table, it's the rent that gets paid, it's all those things that, could be left in shambles if you give up.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't, I if that could paralyze you, or that can, which I like to think it does for me, motivate you and keep you grounded, but also push you forward.
Uh, a kind of a pivot here, but are you in
Hmm.
Maui with the 1-800 water?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you in Maui with the 1-800 water?
No, not in Maui. No. Yeah,
Or I
this
guess that's fires. That's not water. I
it's
haven't, or all of it, or like, don't restoration people go where the problems are essentially?
right. Yeah. So we uh in Maui, we looked at the logistics and clients there, and that's pretty absolute devastation.
Really?
Restoration, yeah, restoration. We do smoke and fire damage, but predominantly it's partially destroyed buildings. So what you got over there is a lot of absolutely devastated. So there's really less restoration. Um,
Well, you can't even restore it.
no, no, like rebuild. Yeah. Yep.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Why is restoration helpful?
Or so restoration is helpful due to the fact that you're either a business owner or a homeowner. You're one of the worst parts of their lives. You're in there and you can help them out with. Someone gets their whole basement flooded, or their kitchen caught fire, or you're at a hotel and somebody put a hanger on a sprinkler pipe and flooded 7 floors. You're coming in and you're helping them when they either got to get back to business or get moved back in their home. So you're helping them out.
How do they pay for that? Through insurance or out of pocket?
Uh, Predominantly, it's paid by the insurance. There's nuances to that. Commercials sometimes have large enough deductibles that they pay directly, but that's really a big part of that business, is who's paying and how do you navigate that.
And why was that a natural evolution add-on to AD&C Enterprises and Manit and the whole empire that you're building?
So my larger customers or customer, it was a natural evolution because I was servicing a restoration and doing a lot for them. So 800 Water Damage is a franchise, right? So I own a couple regions for 1-800 Water Damage, and we also work that nationally. But it was a way to do what we were already doing, add another source of revenue, another opportunity for my employees to grow. Because when I look at other businesses, I look at what, how do I give up more opportunity to my current employees, ways to bring them up. So, but then also not be in competition with my customer.
Hmm. You know, and you mentioned people. What type of values do you are do you, well, I was going to say what type of values do you look for, but first I'm curious, what type of values do you think won't be successful in your culture?
So in my culture, one of the top ones is ethics because that really gets tied to everything. So even work ethic. If you're not an ethical person and you don't care about people around you, you're not going to show up on time. You're not going to work hard. So it really starts, I think, with that, and everything flows from that.
Hmm.
Because if I'm paying you a salary or I'm giving you that benefit of how you're going to provide for your family in return, I expect you to show up and work hard and bring value to the back to the company.
Hmm. What do you say to an entrepreneur that's afraid to reinvest back in hiring people, marketing things, go traveling places? They maybe they want to eat maybe better steaks.
Yeah.
It's
Well, the first thing I'll say is I understand the fear. You're right. But on the other side of that fear is how you grow. You cannot grow any business that any typical business. Now you can be on social media and see all the, I did this and all of a sudden it blew up, but to have a company with people and you have to invest back. I think about Brad Lee when he talks about he first hires a person, then we can bring enough revenue, and then he hires a second person, and that's how you grow. And I believe in that. Part of what you're bringing in needs to go back into the company if you want to grow. And when you said, I just want to eat steaks, that's funny, but the
or
better
nicer ones.
steak. And how are you going to get nicer steaks? It's with more profit, more, and you're not going to do that without growing your company. So those come later down, the nice things, because but when you're first starting, your focus should be if your goal is a sufficient self-sufficient, a company that is going somewhere that's supporting you and your family, you have to reinvest back into it.
Yeah, you mentioned Brad. Shout out to episode 49 of the Culture Matters podcast for the listeners if you haven't listened to it. That makes me think of like mentorship, learning, development. You put yourself in many rooms. I remember a conversation we had about you going to I think something with Jay Abraham, someone I've always thought was a very eccentric and helpful pundit in the self-help industry. How long have you put yourself in those rooms, in those environments? Like, when was the first time
So the first,
and
I
why,
I don't know if it was the first time that really was impactful. I would say was, I'm gonna think it 2000. It's going back a little bit, but 16, 17 maybe. Well, so I was really, I've always been a reader, but I really started focusing on personal development. I'm going to say around 2017. I started actually I was listening to two books at the same time, or I was listening to 10X with Grant Cardone, right? And then I was
great book.
also, oh, it was great, yeah. Um, so at that time, I was listening to that book, and then I started kind of following what was him, and I signed up to go to my first conference, which was I believe it was I think it was his second growth con. So I signed up for that, and then at the same time, I signed up for this the leadership summit with Dave Ramsey. So I actually 1 year went to both of those. Liked them both for different reasons, totally different environments. Really though, that got me on the path of I met at both of them. I met great people. A lot of them who I talk to today still, and have
Wow.
so I really engrossed myself in it. I went by myself on purpose so that I could just not be hindered and meet people and whatever I had to do. Which was honestly, it was a little. I had never done that before. I'd went to networking groups and the Chamber of Commerce type stuff, but that was the first time I was just in it.
What's your advice to someone that's never done that, that has some interest?
It is. I guess the advice is to one, do it. Just like anything else. I mean, you could talk yourself out of doing it because there's a lot of unknowns, but just go in it with an open mind and look and you're going there. Even at a conference, your goal should be to network and to meet people that have common interests.
Hmm. You think you'd be who you are today had you not gone to that first, put yourself in that first medium?
No, no, yeah, that really shortened my. Definitely not today. I mean, maybe it would have taken me longer to get where
Yeah.
I'm at, but the people that I met there and the the going to those things and opening myself to the mentoring, all that opened me up to a lot of different ideas and things I hadn't done. Getting business coaches and mentors, it shortens the gap of where you're at now to where you need to go or where you want to go.
So you invest in real estate. Why is that? First, yeah, why is real estate something that you invest in or have interest in investing in?
I don't know. I can't remember when it got started. But I always for as long as I can remember, I had an interest in real estate. As a eh, Probably because I at such an early age, I was in construction, and what you're working on is real estate. So my goal had been for a while to accumulate the money through business
Hmm.
and to then invest it into real estate, um, so to get that passive income. And it had never been, I'd never wanted to flip really. That sounds too much like a job that I already have. It's
Yeah.
really the investment side of it.
Hmm. And do you feel like you've been successful with it?
I have. I've got a lot more to do. I'd say over the past couple of years, I've slowed down on it because I've been focusing. It's kind of a cop out, but I've been focusing more on the businesses side. So I've got about maybe 20 properties between me and a partner, but I've slowed down, and I need to get back. That is a goal of mine for this couple upcoming years to get back and focus more attention on it.
Is your idea in that sense to earn to create value with the businesses and put allocate earnings from that to those assets? Is that, and like, why, if so, or what am I missing
Yes.
here?
No, that's the goal. And then also to um use the construction companies to then add value to the real estate as a way to, you know, gather properties and then add value to them.
Hmm. You know, you turn is it 39 in a few weeks?
I turned
Yeah.
40 in a few weeks. I'm
Ooh,
39 now. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your advice to, I've been planning my midlife crisis for about, I got 7, 8 years. What's your advice to me?
Yeah. Hold on a second. So my advice is regarding uh, midlife crisis or preparing for it. That is, it's the same as a lot of advice, and that is focus on goals.
Mm,
Because all the thing, you, if you stay active and you're goal oriented and you keep getting bigger and better goals, I don't think that in the traditional sense, you're going to have a midlife crisis because you're adding value, and then you're also like um, if you're building a company or you're supporting people around you, you're focusing on them. You're outward focused and you're servicing people. I just think you're less likely to have the need for a crisis, but you're also, as you're goal oriented, you're able to get the things that you want, to do the things you want to do the traveling where it's not
Hmm.
blowing everything up to do so, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Well, how important has travel been in your growth of the business? Like going and seeing your clients face to face or putting yourself in the field. Has that been vital in the growth?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's been instrumental. Not every company needs to travel to grow. If they're more, and there's nothing wrong with servicing a local market. Uh, for me, though, it's been huge. And a quick story to that effect: in 2008 or 2009, like I'd said, I started focusing on fewer clients and doing work for them wherever. So, and to at that point, and that was a bit of a leap. That included Texas and Idaho and Iowa and Alabama, all over the country, and I was doing dental offices and retail stores. And so, with the retail stores, I was doing work for a client that was out of Pittsburgh. So they had a couple retail clients and they would do work wherever. And I'll never forget that at one point, even though it's only 3 or 4 hours from me, I went out for an impromptu visit to meet the owner of that company and just thank him for the business and meet everybody that I talked to on the phone a lot but never met. And he said that he does work with vendors all over, and not one of them has ever come in like that and just thanked him for the business. So when you so that made a shift for me at that point. It was just kind of something I did, as just something I thought you do or I wanted to do. But even especially now where things are so digital and Teams and Zoom and all those things, that in-person connection is something that people don't get and thrive and really want.
Why don't we go the extra mile?
It's the path of least resistance to not. I think you don't go the extra mile because a lot of times the on demand, it's so easy to not and still to some degree be effective. You just don't have to go the extra mile, so you don't. But if you can discipline yourself too, especially when it comes to those people interactions, there's huge amount of value there. I think we both agree on that.
You think it
Yeah.
creates a competitive edge?
I yes, I absolutely 100% believe it creates competitive edge. I don't ever think about it until I'm asked by someone like you, is that a competitive edge? Yes, because so many people don't do it.
Comes so naturally to you.
Uh, it does, and then now we're creating systems for having those, because it's not just me, it's other estimators and salespeople. So the systems then take over and get out and meet the client. Don't just make all the phone calls or do sales routes as opposed to just phone calls.
Yeah, what's your advice to maintaining client relationships for long tenures?
My advice, I guess, the first thing that comes to mind, that's a great question. My advice is, even when you're not doing business, pick up the phone and check on the person, check on their family, get to know more about them. That's number one. And the other thing is, uh, I really strive to, whatever my client needs to make their life, I try to figure out what makes their life easier and facilitate that. And sometimes it might just be, you hear while you're talking to them, I don't know, something as simple as they have to pick something up and it's 2 hours away. Oh, hey man, I got somebody that's out there. He can drive it to you, right? It could be small things, but they feel, everybody, especially my clients, they're they're working in a company and they're overworked and underpaid. And I think about that. How can I make their life easier?
Wow. Hmm. You know, uh, 10 years from now, when you're headed towards the 30th year as an entrepreneur, who do you see yourself as to your people? Uh, where do you see this going? Uh, maybe not super granularly, but like, are you looking to be like Hershey? I know you're up there. Hershey,
It
isn't that up by you?
is. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just watched a
Hershey.
documentary on him. I mean, the guy built a town. It was unbelievable. Orphanages and like so, yeah, like because you're coming up on the 20th anniversary of being an entrepreneur. Said your birthday's around the corner, 10 years out, 20 years out.
So at first, it's funny you brought up Hershey. I think about him a lot when we talk about failing and getting back up because he went bankrupt numerous times, and nobody
Really?
remembers that. Oh yeah, yeah,
See?
Milton Hershey, yeah, and he came back from that, and nobody thinks about it. They think about Hershey Park and Hershey the town, and you know. So I think about him a lot when I think about failure and getting back up. Um, but what my vision is, what I hope to see in 10 years, and that is to continue on this path and really be for my companies the guy that sets the culture, that works on the culture and communicates the vision and continue to create opportunity for employees that want to grow within my companies. And that's one of the biggest reasons for adding more, is that if I've got somebody that is excelling and one vertical doesn't have room for them to grow, another vertical will. So focusing on people and what can make their lives better.
Hmm. 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 You think the like how important is the financial aspect? Or you think do you think money is enough to motivate people at this point, or does it has to be deeper than that?
That's tough. We're in a, I mean, it's a capital country. To do anything, you need money. So yes, money is a motivator. It can be enough of a motivator because money creates options. It creates freedom. It's to say that money doesn't matter is I believe a lie. Uh, Now, what I do believe though is money is the byproduct of over servicing your clients. So your lead focus should be servicing your clients and the people around you, because money comes with that, and getting known and working on having more people know you and helping more people creates money. But let's be honest. I mean, we're doing this, and people are in this to make money, and
Hmm.
to say that it doesn't matter is a lie, and you're either lying to yourself.
Why do you think people like our culture too, right? The entrepreneurial culture. It seems like it's shifting.
I think that
You think it's
it's
shifting in the wrong direction, or
I think that I don't know where it's going to be in 10 years, but from when I was younger till now, the glorification of being an entrepreneur hurts a lot of people. It sets them down a wrong path. I think, and I like that there's, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's people that are shedding light on that,
Mm,
where it's okay to be an employee. You can help other people you can be an entrepreneur. You can help create value in companies and get a lot of value. Um, so I think that entrepreneurism and business ownership is a great opportunity. And if that's what you want to do, be prepared to be super
mm.
focused, have that work ethic, and not be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail.
Yeah, it's interesting. You just led to this thought of like, there's so much talk about entrepreneurship, just even in this conversation. But what what are some of the pros of being employed by someone else that is a quality leader?
So,
Both life and business pros, right? A quality leader, somebody that's employed by someone they actually respect and admire.
I think one you can learn a lot, and if you're going to be an employee and that's what your goal is, finding a good quality leader, somebody that you can depend on, because just like I feel that I'm responsible for my families, uh, I believe that my employees chose me because I'm worthy of that responsibility. I may
Mm,
scare them at times, but you gotta you have to, if you're going to be an employee, find somebody that you can learn from, that you can grow with, right? Because, and then that may be a path to entrepreneurism, because you'll learn so much, you may eventually be safe enough to do your own thing.
mm. Oh, investing into one's future, like retirement and things. Do you believe in retirement, or do you have a diff, what view do you have on long-term personal planning?
So it's
Is it like
something.
Andrew Carnegie, like put all your eggs in a basket, or is it more diversification, like the adage of the financial advisor types, or like a Dave Ramsey? I think he's more diversification. Or is it
Yeah.
like, Charlie Munger, diversification is a hedge against ignorance? How do you fall into it? Because everybody has an opinion.
So it's funny. I've never thought about it that way, and I love that question.
Thanks.
So I peg myself as more of a diversification, right? So uh, I invest in certain stocks that are more in the technology field, because even though I'm in construction, I've never lost that love of technology and computers. So
Uh,
I have a, that's what I invest in stock wise. There's real estate, um, and then I have the construction company, construction company that I invest heavily in. I also have some silver. So I guess I would say I diversify, and that's what, you know, I'm now more, I would say, if I don't know if I would have started it younger, because I invested a lot really heavily in my companies, but now in this stage of my life, I am looking at wanting to make sure that my money is deployed in the right ways, and then it's going to return to me, so that, you know when, and I don't look at retirement, I look at when I'm 60 plus, I want to be that visionary for my companies as long as I can. I'm not gonna be working in the same capacity, but I enjoy what I do, so I see
hmm.
doing something long term.
You're not interested in sitting around. You're going to work in a different way, you're saying.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, yep.
Have you found that as a common psychology among your peers?
Uh, Yes, yeah, yeah, because I think that the people that I try to associate with are high level entrepreneurs, and that's one of the things that is most commonly shared. Very few entrepreneurs that are grinding so hard to have a something they can be proud of, and to their family, that brings value, is looking like, I can't wait till I'm, 62.5, where I can retire. They're thinking, yeah, it's going to be a different capacity, but I love what I do.
You mentioned stock. So what someone that has interest in doing that, how did you get started? When did you get started? Did you read books on it? Did you just fiddle around? Did you get an advisor early? Did you just go with your intuition on what you said you understood tech, or what? Like where'd you start?
I think it was a little bit above, or a little bit of all of it. I listened to some podcasts, and I haven't been doing it for very long, maybe 5 years now. So between podcasts and reading books, and I had a business friend of mine. Um, he was actually a client. He was really into stocks, and so he mentored me a bit. He taught me how to read charts, and um, what to look at. So, but then also just stubborn, and a lot of the ways that I am, just in general, I just jumped in, and I believe that you can steer a ship. You can't steer a ship where it's sitting still. So I'm like, I'm gonna learn, but I'm gonna learn while doing it.
Because you went to Ramsey's stuff, so Vanguard and all mutual funds and things like that. Did you get into that culture at all?
Uh, no, yeah, I
More
don't.
active picking?
More active picking, yeah, yep.
So 2023 into 2024. 2023, what's the biggest lesson up to this point? And then, of course, added to that is what's on the horizon? What are you excited for?
So the biggest lesson for, I would say it's a culmination of 2022 and 2023, is, uh, for me is, uh, it has, where I'm at right now, it has everything to do with people, and that is the hiring and getting people that are going to fit into your culture, and removing those people sooner so they don't damage. That is a lesson, and it's, we could probably spend a whole hour and a half discussion on lessons I've learned recently about that. But um, it's not letting people that don't need to be here persist. So, um, giving them opportunity, giving them coaching, talking to them, but when things aren't working out and it's clear, being able to move on faster, even if it's at the short-term detriment, right? So allowing somebody that shouldn't be there because it's going to be an inconvenience for you, it creates long-term damage if you do that. And I've learned that the hard way. So that's the 2022, 2023 lesson.
And the horizon for 24, 5, 6.
Pour again, it's the horizon is pour into your people. Uh, I've done a lot of personal development. I'm looking at doing more development and opening up those avenues and coaching and all that for my people to help them grow. And it's really for 2024 and beyond. It's aligning myself again with employees, either grow them or look for higher level people, because that's, and not being afraid to do that, not being afraid to get somebody to help you along the way that's higher level within the company. So those are things I'm working on now.
In closing, if you were to put a theme to this conversation for the listener, and in a sentence or even a word, what's their takeaway? What do they need to do? How do they think?
So in a sentence, or I would say that entrepreneurism can be a rewarding, glorious, uh, filled with possibility path if you're committed to it. If you're committed to entrepreneurism, it can be great, but you need to have that commitment.